Good afternoon and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Isabella Adediji. Today we're looking at the realities of being a Nigerian in 2024. Now, Nigeria joins the rest of the world in grappling with the high cost of living. Yet there are some peculiarities when it comes to Nigeria as a result of some of the decisions made by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, last year when he assumed office. Decisions such as the floating of the naira and also the removal of subsidy on PMS. And we also have the increase on tariff for Band A. And what we've seen is that the cost of living, from housing to transportation to food, has just skyrocketed. Nigerians are having to grapple with high prices, and unfortunately, the salaries, the wages are just not commensurate. And with the floating of the naira being such an import-dependent country, we're seeing things double, triple. Let's look at the price of PMS, which has gone 3 times. We're spending 3 times as much as we did 9 months ago. What about essentials like a bag of rice? Double the price. And these are some of the realities that Nigerians have to grapple with. Now, to discuss this, I have with me a communications consultant, Daniel Oladoja Bright. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. We also have joining us virtually on Zoom, the founder of Policy Shapers, Ebenezer Wikina. Ebenezer, welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, I'll start with you, Daniel. I saw you kind of nodding along while I was doing the introductions. These realities that I spoke about, is that something that you are also grappling with as a Nigerian? How are you able to survive compared in 2023 to 2024? What is the reality for you?
I think that you've pretty much summarized everything. You've painted a very accurate picture of what the reality is on the ground. And there's really, let's not sugarcoat things. It's grim on the ground, and Nigerians are grappling with multidimensional crisis, right? We're talking about inflation at a record high, right? The numbers are now being compared to what we had in the early 2000s, like year 2000. And we're talking about the price of, this is a PMS-driven economy, and that commodity is now 3 times what it used to be. Food inflation is at an all-time high. Inflation itself is at a record number. And what that means is that when all these levers of the economy are moving in such manners, it definitely puts a lot of pressure on the common Nigerian, on the average people, on the average citizen. And how are people coping? I think it's a miracle. Let's just say that. The one thing that is constantly talked about for Nigerians is the resilient spirit of the Nigerian person. The fact that we are very, very adaptive. Yeah, when fuel subsidy, for instance, was removed last year, for the first 1 week, the roads were empty. And then, give or take, 3 weeks later, everything just kind of like gradually came back to normal. Nigerians are very adaptive. They're very resilient people.
So we're finding a way in the midst of it all to just manage our way just to go better, that resilient spirit of the Nigerian. I'll move to Ebenezer, and I'm posing the same question to you. What's the reality like for the average person, and how are you grappling with some of these shocks and these new realities?
Yeah, no, thank you. The realities are really grim, just as Daniel said rightly. I think that it's a mix of so many things happening at the same time. He spoke about the PMS issue, but also there's also the big issue of insecurity, where Nigerians now can no longer travel from state to state without the fear of being kidnapped. And if you say you want to fly, the cost of flying has now gone times 3, just as the cost of every other thing. So, so even like transportation, house rents, my wife and I, for a long time kept searching for a house this year, and we couldn't find, because like the cost of rent had gone ×3 as well. Like, so even like where to stay, the basic need of a human being looking for a place to stay, we also can't find that as well. So yeah, so everything has just gone triple, and I think it's a mixture of having problems on different layers. So we've had the different layers of problems add up to what we have now. There's the issue with inflation that's then also led to food inflation. But food inflation is caused by the fact that people are not able to farm, which is caused by insecurity. And I think the government has the body language of the government in responding to the issues around insecurity have been really poor. We haven't seen the president really strongly, and as well as some national leaders as well as the governors, come out and strongly ask for the service chiefs to actually do something about insecurity. We heard the security operatives speak more about protests than we've ever heard them speak about insecurity. And I think that's very appalling. So I think you just have these various problems, and then you have the one with power as well. So so if there's no power, you have to put on generator, and then you have to buy PMS. So all of these challenges just interlinked together, I think, are just making life really, really tough for Nigerians.
I'll move to you, Daniel. And my question is, in the midst of it all, Ebenezer had spoken about security, spoken about transportation, spoken about so many other issues. In the midst of it all, this government has said, look, we're taking those hard decisions now, like removing subsidy, so that we're able to invest in infrastructure. How long is the average Nigeria wait? How long does the average Nigeria have to wait before there's that light at the end of the tunnel? Are you hopeful that we're soon going to get to the end, and where we'll be seeing some of the dividends, some of the rewards of these tough decisions that have been made?
Well, I think that as you talked about hope and the painful decisions that have been taken, the first thing I'd like to say is that it's wisdom that when you want to conduct the surgery, you have to give something called anesthesia. I think what has happened here is that an open surgery is being conducted. A very painful procedure is being conducted without anesthesia. There are no measures to absorb the shock of the reforms that have been put in place. And painful decisions have to be made. All through the campaign period, the three front-line candidates agreed that these decisions have to be made. So it's not given that these things have to be done. But what has caused this chaos right now is that these things have been done. It's like an open surgery has been conducted or has been initiated without anesthesia. So people are facing the pain of that process with their open eyes and full consciousness, right? And so what has to be done? Do I see light at the end of the tunnel?
Like that recovery period, when does the pain now wear out? When do we get out of that pain from the post-surgery?
Post-surgery pain. The question is the surgery over? That's the question we need to ask, the first question. The second question is this surgery successful? Has it been a successful surgery? Will there be a need to reopen the patient? Are there things that have gone wrong? Are there complications? What if there have been we don't even know if there have been complications along the way. Only the person conducting the surgery knows what's going on. The only thing that we, the patients, are feeling is the excruciating pain. We don't know whether, before we even begin to talk about recovery, we have to talk about this has been successful, right? The patient is stable and all of that. And then we can talk about recovery. But right now, we're not even sure that what has been initiated has been done correctly. It has been successful before recovery. And I think that as an average Nigerian, hope is not a survival strategy. Hope helps you get through some part of the pain. But the problem with hope is that hope has an expiry date, right? And that's why the scriptures say that hope that is deferred makes the heart weary, right? Hope itself can lead to frustration at some point. So we cannot over-rely on hope. Yeah, we're talking about renewed hope as the mantra for the government, but we cannot over-rely on hope. At some point, we have to begin to see tangible, measurable, concise improvements in the condition of the economy, so that, because hope has to draw from something, unlike faith that feeds on the invisible, hope has to draw from something.
We need to start seeing those fruits. I'm going to pose those questions because they're very interesting to Ebenezer, which is to say, okay, is 1 year, is that too early to start asking for how effective these decisions are? Or do we need to give it another 1 year? Do we need to give it some months? In your own opinion, has this surgery been successful? Have these painful decisions delivered on what they promised so far?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Isabel. And I'll stick to Daniel's metaphor of the surgery. I think that it makes a lot of sense. And I think the answer is that the surgery really hasn't really started much. We have started to take out some of the important, maybe touch on some of the important organs, things like subsidy and then floating the naira to know the real value of the currency, etc. But I think there's still some fundamental issues like the cost of governance, for example. We can't say we're conducting a surgery to save the economy when the administration then puts in the highest ever number of people in the cabinet. If you add the ministers and the SSAs and the SAs, we have almost 70 people in the cabinet. I mean, I don't think you can do a surgery by worsening things, right? Every administration has spoken about the Orasai report and how there's the need to implement the reports. I mean, there was a press conference a couple of months ago by the current administration about that, but we can't see anything. So you can't really say 1 year is too short, because I think that you can begin to take those small steps that are needed to begin to infuse those changes. So if you even look at just the spending of the subnational and national governments, if you say you don't have money, there's a way you spend. I mean, even us as individuals, when we are broke, we budget, we plan. We don't buy new jets. We don't add more people to the cabinet. We don't spend on frivolous things that really do not show that. And that's why we're having foreign countries now, or foreigners now, these are jets. Because we can tell that we don't have money, but we're buying a new jet. You're owing someone, or you're buying a new jet. You're spending money on new things. You're traveling much more than than ever before. So I think that surgery really hasn't started. And it's a sad news. I think that if we really do want to take that surgery on just as we're supposed to, because that's the only way for us to get out of this mess. If you really want to do that surgery, there are many fundamental steps that the government needs to take. And I think one of them really is the cost of governance that needs to be lowered to barest minimum at the national and subnational levels.
I'll move that conversation to you, which is the cost of governance. And I also want you to look at it holistically, because a lot of times the attention is on the president, is on the governors, but then you have the local government, and now we see that they have autonomy when it comes to the use of their funds. And then we also have our senators, we have our House of Reps, we have our councillors. So that cost of governance, is it such an important part of this surgery? Is it so important that we start to cut down the cost of governance if we want to fix the economy?
Yeah, that's inevitable. But realistically, one of the things we have to do when we have conversations about Nigeria is be very, very pragmatic, right? There are some things are easy to demand, but are they easy to implement, right? If you will not be frustrated when discussing Nigeria, you have to separate the ideal from the pragmatic. You have to be very, very realistic.
So what's pragmatic in this scenario?
What is pragmatic in this scenario is that we have seen that the House of Assembly as a whole have turned a deaf ear to the calls for Nigerians to cut their costs. Yes, they said they took a break in salary and all of that. That is not the main thing. We're all smart. We all know what's going on. But you've pointed out to a very critical organ of government, which is grassroots leadership. Now the local governments have autonomy. And we have to be proactive in the sense that globally, I mean, not globally, but I have had an experience of being in the US for a couple of weeks for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And in my interaction with the government leaders in that place, I realized how beautiful grassroots leadership is. So, for instance, I was in UC Davis in California, and the mayor of the city of Davis actually happened to be a professor from Yale, right? So you have someone who is an erudite scholar, someone who had worked at Yale, someone who had studied at Yale. He's smart, he's intelligent.
And he's at the local government.
And he's the mayor of the city of Davis. I had a bicycle ride with this gentleman around the city of Davis, and I saw the thinking that goes into the function of that city, how they design the bicycle lanes. That's not the prerogative of the governor. Sacramento is just like an hour from Davis, but Davis is completely disconnected from Sacramento. They think for themselves. And there's a lot of consultation that goes into how Davis is designed, because Davis as a city can make its decision. We have to redesign and rejig our government in such a way that grassroots leadership is effective. Take, for instance, pipe-borne water. You don't need the governor of the state to provide you pipe-borne water. If you have a river system around the local government, you can have a dam, right? You can have bicycle lanes in the city. Now, the problem with Nigeria is that we are very, very monolithic in our thinking. Everything is one way. Everybody relies on either a motorcycle or a bus or a car. Everything uses petrol.
So you're saying this innovative thinking should come from the grassroots. It should come from the local government.
There is nowhere.
We can't expect the president in Abuja to come and be solving the issues that have been delegated to the elected representatives at
the
local
grassroots
level.
The point is that every family, there's a reason why every family has a father and a mother.
I'd like to get Ebenezer's opinions on this with the local government. With the president giving autonomy, in the few weeks that has happened, have we seen some kind of proactiveness with local government officials? Have we seen them showing their muscle? Have we seen them coming out to identify with the people? Because they should be the ones closest to us at the local level. They should be the ones listening to the people at the grassroots. Have we felt that?
I don't think we have in most states. I think that there's still some bit of fundamental work that needs to go into ensuring that we allow the local government really is as autonomous as we want it to be. Currently, it's not autonomous, because even if you do say that the money for the local government gets paid directly to the local government, the state governors still have power in deciding who becomes local government chairpersons. They still have power over the RESEC. They appoint whoever becomes the state electoral commissioner, and who that person becomes loyal to them, and that's the person who then conducts the local government election. So I feel there's still some fundamental laws, and these are the things that you think that National Assembly should be thinking about, right? When we talk about giving autonomy, you start thinking about what are the legal frameworks that would ensure that autonomy actually does exist. So I actually do agree with Daniel when he says that, that the grassroots and the local level actually does have a huge role to play, and we need to see our local government chairpersons bringing local solutions to our problems, because we can't expect the national to come down to us. But I think that the job of a president in most countries, most developing countries, is to be a role model. The president's job is to set the standard as a national leader for what is obtainable at the states and local level. So if the president is telling state governors, don't spend money, it means that he's also not spending money. If the president is telling local government people, ensure that you're able to meet the needs, it means that his budget is also reflecting in the need that it's not just like you don't have federal and local government budget. You have one budget, right? And the allocation goes all the way down to the local level. So I think we need to see that kind of setting the pace and role modeling that I think we need to see at the local level. I think the president has a huge role to play in that light. Yeah.
So that's leadership by example. And is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu leading by example? Is he leading by example in cutting down the cost of governance? Is he leading by example in showing that renewed hope, saying, look, I'm asking you Nigerians to take these tough decisions and bear with us, because I'm also depriving myself of certain things? Do you feel that coming from our president? Is he in tune with the people?
Well, if we're going by the decisions and the choices that have been made recently, I really don't get that sense of that we're all pulling in the same direction. So if we're saying that we're going to embrace austerity and we're going to run a lean government, then to start with, we're not even going to have the number of cabinets that we have right now. We're not going to have the number of aides. We're not going to invest in the things that have been invested in, except that maybe the president has a different definition of what he's trying to implement, right? Maybe tough system of government. I mean, maybe toughness means something different for him. And sometimes it's paradoxical how governance sometimes happens, that you could parrot something and do something differently. And a lot of times this have been blamed on a lot of factors, like people say, oh, it's not the leader, it's the people surrounding the leader and all of that. The
or
leadership
is the past administration.
Or is the past administration, or is in an echo chamber and all of that. There are always excuses that are given. But let's call a spade what we've seen is a dissonance between what is being said and what is being done. The investments, the priorities do not align with the things that have been said in terms of government direction, or maybe this is, and you know that there's a way media works. Sometimes narratives take on a life of their own without being given. So if around you there's a narrative that keeps on going, it then becomes like a mantra for everyone around you, even though you never supported it or you never said it. One thing we know that the president has said expressly is that he's going to take tough decisions. Has he expressly committed to cutting down the cost of government? I don't know. Has he expressly come out to say this is what he wants to do? Yes, perhaps he has said that, but we're not seeing it being done. Of course, recently, the presidential aid on climate change, for instance, came out to say that we've been able to reduce the cost of COP29 by about $10 billion. Fantastic. That is beautiful. $10 billion is huge saving. But how about other things that have been spent?
So the priority really needs to be in line with what is being said. Thank you so much, Daniel Oladoja Bright, a communications consultant, and also our guest who joined us via Zoom, Ebenezer Wikina, founder of Policy Shapers. That's all we can take on this segment of Rubbin Minds. Do stay with us and come back after this quick break. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove action. Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. I'm joined by a social commentator, Emeke Anaye. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So I'm sure you were following the conversation from earlier on in the first segment, and we touched on quite a lot of things, and the reality of being a Nigerian now and in different parts of the world is grappling with high cost of living, namely food inflation, amongst others. You still have like the cost of shelter, you have issues with transportation that has also doubled. And I just want us to look at things from a policy level. The government is saying we should give time for some of these painful decisions to materialize. And when we look at agriculture, food security policies to address the food inflation, we have the Anchor Borrowers Program, we have the Nigeria Agribusiness and Agro-Industry Development Initiatives. And all these are things we hear about, but are they effective? Are these policies addressing the issues around the supply chain? Are these these policies addressing the issues within that agricultural sector?
I think in terms of the policies of the government thus far, the government continue to make, tell the people that these policies will assist you. But in checking the effectiveness of this policy, you have to ask the ordinary person on the street to say, do they feel this impact? Are they aware of these policies that you're making, and how true is it in terms of implementation? So if actually the people at the receiving end do not even know what these things are about, or even if they're aware, they do not have the ability to actually get the reward of it, then it means that it will not be providing the numbers of, how will I put it? So if you go further to see, the reason why government made the policies, actually in the first place, you have to first of all consult the people. And these people that you are making these policies for are not even aware of it. And if the policies exist, they do not seem to even know the advantage of these policies. So I doubt if these policies are actually fulfilling the purposes that they are meant for.
I mean, earlier on, we're talking about the issues around agriculture, food security, and something that has come up is the security in general, because farmers are unable to get to their farms because of the banditry. And as a result of that, they're not able to get food as quickly in the kind of quantity we want. So there was a time when tomatoes, which is easily consumed by so many people, went through the roof in terms of the price. So back to your point about that consultation, how should the government be consulting people within a sector to be able to pass policies that will be effective?
Yes. So when you talk about governance, it's about the people. So if you make policies without consulting the people, there you have issue. So for example, the security issue. So farmers as it is today, so a great number of farmers in the north and some other parts of the country are complaining that we do not have access to our farm. And security you might improve other sectors of the economy, but if security is not okay, everything falls. So you may choose to say, okay, let's increase the electricity, let's do this. But if there's no security for that, then definitely it will crumble. So I don't see a situation whereby the government actually will also work on those aspects of it.
And when you say security affects everything, it actually does, because if people can't go to work, they can't go to their farms, or maybe you look at the southeast, for example, they have a sit-at-home order, they can't go out on Mondays, for example, it affects productivity. Now I want us to move to something that a lot of people have said, if we can get this right, like security, we'll be able to solve problems, and that's education. And we know that there is a demand for tertiary education. The jobs out there are asking for 2-1s, they're asking for experience, but yet people can't afford it. Now, the government has come up with the student loan, and some people have spoken about how accessible is it. In your own view, do you think the student loan is effective, and do you think the government got it right with this kind of intervention?
I think in measuring the effectiveness of the student loan, you have to first of all take a look at, okay, clearly the application is online. So, but what I would anchor on is to say that government has not been doing enough to further sensitize the people about this loan. Because if you take a look at the report, you say some states, they have difficulty to actually access this loan. That is, some don't even know about what this loan is about. So there has to be a massive sensitization program for this. It's a good program because education, once you are able to improve the education through access to education, then you are a step ahead in terms of improving the economy and also increasing the level of literacy level.
So there's a lot of sensitization.
A lot of sensitization has to be done to achieve
this. And I
this.
think that was a point you made when we're looking at the agricultural, the food sector, that some of these initiatives might be there. But if people don't know about them, then how can they even be effective in the first place? So what does government need to do to create that sensitization?
So we are in a digital world, and so let's take, for example, the farmers. So you may even see that, okay, the farmers, not all of them have access to these technologies, but these people interact. So you have to take your sensitization program back to the grassroots. So a situation whereby you see a farmer in the village and you think that, okay, if I continue to put off adverts on television, on newspapers, some of these people don't have access to that. Some. So in such situation, you have to adopt a medium that will be able to take into consideration the peculiarity of those people who are not easily reached. So by that type of sensitization, you would have been able to, cover the feed. So to me, I feel that it is not enough to just post things on social media. It's not enough to just make a newspaper publication. You have to go to the roots, the people, the end users, to know whether do they know what this thing is about, and if they do, how can they access it? And you have to reduce the requirements, because some of these people might not be, vast on accessing. If you make the application to be online, how are they going to access it? So those are the things that needs to be considered.
So really reaching them in their language, reaching them in the medium that they consume. So whether it's radio, using local language, breaking it down. And you spoke about the requirements, looking at what they can afford, whether it's the collateral, whether it's the down payments, what is feasible. So government needs to be more in tune. I'd like to move to something that has been on the news for a while, and a lot of Nigerians have come out to say, look, we can't continue living like this with the minimum wage. Cost of living has doubled, tripled. And yes, we got to the figure of 70,000 naira, but is that minimum wage, does it reflect the realities of the Nigerian? Is that a good figure, or should we have pushed for more?
I think we should push for better economic policies. Because if you push for better economic policies and improved governance and economies, then you will not be so much bothered about the figure. So if you increase this minimum wage to 120,000 and inflation, there is hyperinflation, then it will reduce the value of that 120,000. So if actually the earning power of that 70,000 naira would measure up, then it will be fine. So determining the effectiveness of that minimum wage as to know whether it is okay or it is not okay, you have to know the purchasing power of that 70,000 naira. But as it is today, the purchasing power of 70,000 naira is far lower. And as such, you cannot actually classify that as an improved or enhanced minimum wage.
So what are some economic policies that this government should be implementing so that we have that all-round development that, as in your own words, increases the purchasing power of the naira?
So it's a holistic approach. So you won't just pick one sector of the economy in isolation of the other. And I've made mention to say that, okay, the beginning is security. Because once you have security, at least you can build things on it. But if there's no security, there's nothing. So government has to improve the security system. And also in terms of trade and investment, people want to see transparency. And I want predictability in terms of doing business in Nigeria. So if you make policies today, be consistent with it. So a situation whereby you make a particular policy today, tomorrow you say something else, then people won't trust you. Even the foreign investors will be skeptical interacting with you. So I think that the government has to, make policies in terms of transparency, trade and investment. And to me, also in terms of agriculture, it is not enough for you to just, say you want to continue to give people once in a while, you give bag of rice and all that. You have to give them the seed. You have to give them the avenue. You have to give them the environment to plant. So once they are able to do that, then they will be able to generate income. And they will not even need that bag of rice because you've been able to enhance their earning ability. So with that, they can live comfortably. That is my own point of view in that.
But in the short run, what are the quick wins? Because in the midst of the protest, the president came out and took some very bold decisions and said, okay, they're going to open the borders and they're going to lift the imports on food importation, the import duties. So I was listening to you and you were saying, look, you can't say one thing today and you say another thing tomorrow. Yeah. But what happens in situations where you have to make choices to address the immediate needs? Is that the way to go?
Yeah, to me, the decisions you make, because governance is about listening to the people. So you have a situation whereby the citizens, the general public are shouting, complaining saying that we are suffering. So part of what you have to do as the head of government is to call these people to say, okay, what will I be able to do to actually cushion the effects of this? And you might not be able to have the exact perception of what the people at the receiving end are suffering until you are able to go to them to say, okay, what are the policies that I should take? But in another aspect is that, okay, you also have known better when you took up the mantle of leadership. So to me, I feel that government should have this open consultation with the people. So open consultation with the people will be able to tell the government to say, okay, these are the pressing area. And part of it is issue of the PMS. Part of it is the issue of the PMS. So a situation whereby there is a reduction in the price, that would, to a great extent, cushion the effect. So I believe that a step in the right direction will include reduction in the price of fuel.
So in essence, this government needs to be in tune with the people.
Yes.
This government needs to consult so that they don't just take reactive decisions, but they are more proactive in the decision making.
Yes, people-oriented decisions.
People-oriented decisions. Thank you very much, Emeke Anayi, a social commentator, for being our guest here on Rubbin Minds.
Yeah, great to be here.
And we will take a quick break on Rubbin Minds. And when we return, we have another interview. Stay with us.
Good morning, girl, with you. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove.
Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. Now, you'll agree with me that parenting in this age is very different from what our parents, grandparents went through. When you look at the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, it's a whole different ball game with the internet, with social media, with a lot of pressure. And parents have to navigate all these things. Gone at the time where you just say, don't do that. Your child will probably ask for an explanation. And we're now joined on the show, Ijoma Okafor Emega, who is an author and she's written some parenting books, is joining us on Rubbin Minds. Ijoma, welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you very much.
So I'd like to go straight into it. Parenting, when it comes to values, because these days a lot of people say, oh, we don't have the right values as a society. So it starts at the family. That's the smallest unit of society. What values should we be instilling in the children of today? And how do you ensure that it sticks with them as they grow?
I would say that families are different. Like when we say no two marriages are the same, it's the same thing with no two families are the same. However, there are essential values we should instill on children. We should instill in children. And the most important values I think that we should instill in children is kindness. In today's world where children face bullying, there are a lot of bullying in the schools, in our neighborhoods. I think teaching children is... Now, the next one is honesty. It is important that we instill the value of responsibility. Responsibility is very important. As children grow, it is essential that parents instill in them age-appropriate responsibilities that they should take at each step of the way, because this will help them, this will structure them and plan them. So these are the most important values I think that parents should pay attention to: kindness, honesty, responsibility. Thank you.
These values are things that cut across so many things, because if you're kind, you won't bully the next person. If you're honest, if you take responsibility, you'll act in a kind way to others. You won't be reckless. You do the right thing. So these are very important values. And earlier on, I was speaking about the different climates we have now in, where you have social media, you have the internet, you have a lot of external pressure that probably parents 30, 40 years ago didn't have to deal with. So my next question is, what do we do to protect our children from some of the harms that come from this technology, social media, this exposure?
This question, it's a dicey situation, because there are no clear boundaries. It's blurry. It is actually my main focus in my thesis. I'm running my PhD candidate. I'm in my PhD candidacy presently, and I am focusing on how internet addiction affects the adolescent well-being, more on their psychological well-being and on their physical well-being. And parents are going through a lot. It's not easy, because in our economy of today, both parents have to work. And when both parents are working, paying more attention to what our children are doing, what they are exposed to, tends to be difficult. We see that parents leave the care of the children most times to external sources to take care of them. However, we are going to do the best that we can do. And the most important thing is to set clear boundaries. It is very essential that we set no should be no.
No should be no, yes should be yes. Clear boundaries. And these clear boundaries, when do you start setting them when it comes to the accessibility of these devices? You have 2-year-olds that can probably put on the phone, go to their favorite show on the internet and start playing it. all by themselves. So when do you start setting those boundaries when it comes to regulating their social media use, and how do you also guide the external sources, like you put it, in maintaining those boundaries that were set in the home when they do go to school or when they are left in the care of a nanny or domestic staff?
Yes. So as early as possible. As early as possible, these clear boundaries should be set. So we shouldn't wait until it's too late. From before the age of 2, when the kids feel that they can do all these things, they can navigate, they can use various apps or go to various go to the YouTube, go to various social media. We should learn to set these boundaries as early as possible.
Okay, so one way is to set the boundaries, but these children will still have to deal with the pressure. When they go to school, when they show up on social media, they'll still have to deal with that pressure. What do they do when, for example, they're not being liked on social media, they're not popular, or they're actually being bullied, cyberbullying? How do they withstand those pressures?
So that is where having conversations with children comes in, and I would entreat all parents to be a role model to their kids. When you're a role model, and teach them how to practice kindness, be kind to other people, I think the rate of bullying will drop drastically. Also, parents should be able to monitor what their kids are doing online. There are ways to checkmate the sites they go on, what they do, the conversations they are having. There are ways that you can be able to access which social media apps have my children used, or which site have my children been on. And I would also entreat parents to limit the exposure of social media applications children go on until a certain age. I mean, there is no rush. We are on these social media apps every day, and I don't think there's something these kids are missing. There are a lot of things that can take over their attention, apart from going on these social media apps and becoming, what I would say, start bullying or being exposed to bullying as well. There are a lot of things. Again, I would understand parents from their point of view. Sometimes when parents work all through the week and they come back home over the weekend, or they're on a public holiday, they want to rest. The best way to keep the kids occupied, if you don't want to send them on a play date where you cannot monitor, you don't want to send them, you don't want to go for a birthday date where you can't monitor, is to give them the applications. Because when you give them you used to give them their digital devices. When you give it to them, they are occupied. So you can time these things, you can monitor, you can, there are things to do, there are ways to do it. And it is very important that parents pay attention to these things, because there is a lot going on in the social media world. There is really a lot.
And how can parents be more intentional when it comes to engaging their wards, their children, on very sensitive issues? Bullying is one of them. We have different things that they're exposed to on social media. How are we able to broach those kind of sensitive conversations, and how early should we be having such conversations?
I would say when the children start asking certain questions, because I wouldn't want parents to give information that the child is not ready for. And I wouldn't like parents to have these conversations in front of children that are not age appropriate. So children are inquisitive, they are curious, and they interact with other people. No matter how much parents try to shield their children or their words, children mingle with other children. If you say, I'm not giving my child a digital device until a certain age, you are doing great, but understand that it is just you. Out of 10 parents, 2 may decide not to give their children digital devices, or even if they give them, they set limits, they set clear boundaries, while 8 parents are not doing the same thing that you are doing. And For instance, you're struggling with this other 8 children who their parents aren't doing what your own parents are doing. And that's where the conversations come in. I watched something on YouTube. I did this, I did that, and I saw this and I saw that.
So it's about having age-appropriate conversations and not having some of these conversations prematurely and ensuring they're right for it. We know that on social media these days, you might go on somebody's bio and you see things like pronouns, him, her, they, them, and you have people identifying in different ways. How do we have these delicate conversations? Because a lot of times the schools are not prepared in the curriculum to deal with some of these issues, but they're able to still access it because the internet is a global platform. So while it might not be something that's common in a particular country, but in other countries, they're having to deal with pronouns and identification, people wearing certain kind of clothes, people coming out, so to say.
Okay, so starting this conversation, as I said earlier, is also based on your child's development and the questions your child has asked. Let me start with puberty and adolescence, the things that happen. Sometimes children tend to ask questions earlier, even before adolescence. They'll start asking you certain questions about their sexual or reproductive health system. Mommy, why is this happening? Daddy, why is this happening? And then when your child comes with those questions, you give responses based on their age appropriate. Now, because of the way social media is, the internet is these days, and things spread like wildfire, I also think parents should have these conversations with their kids age appropriately. And when their kids come to them and ask them questions, it is not something you shun them or you hush them, don't talk about it. I think parents should have conversations with them. And it is tough. These conversations are really tough because sometimes it is even awkward. I don't even know where to start when my kids ask me certain questions. For example, my child sees a cross-dresser on TV, on social media, or even on TV. For instance, the famous Bobrisky that's everywhere. And they come to ask, who is this? What is the symbol of this person? What impact does this individual make in the society? And sometimes parents are lost for words. What are they going to answer? What responses are you going to give? So when your kids come to you with this question, I saw a video of someone who is a man who dresses like a woman. Don't just quickly collect the digital device and maybe spank your child. Why are you here? This and that. I think that is the time to have a conversation with your child and instill your family values. As I said earlier at the beginning, each family is different. There are values guiding each family. There are principles guiding each family. So it is the time to sit your child down. Your child has seen this and you don't know if they have seen worse. So you should sit your child down and then have an honest communication and tell them, this is what is happening, age appropriately, mind you, age appropriately, and tell them this is what it is, this is what is happening. Give them stories and say this is how it is, but this is who we are. This is what guides us. This is the values that I grew up with. This is the values that I want us as a family to showcase. So that's the way to approach it.
And you're the author of 2 parenting books. How important are these books to parents, and how do these books help them in understanding, like you said, child sexuality, puberty, and issues that occur in society like cross-dressing, identifying as a different gender than the one you were born with? What can they get from your books?
Okay, so the first book focuses on puberty and adolescence. I wrote that book because in my time as a young person, I found out that my parents or relatives, aunties and uncles found it difficult to talk about adolescence, puberty. It's an awkward conversation for them.
And the second
they don't
book?
give you. They
So the
don't they
first
don't
one
give you
has to do with
information.
puberty and
Yes,
adolescence, and the second
they
book.
don't. So it's on the surface. So when I found out that this is how it is, I decided to help adolescents to write and wrote down this book. And it doesn't have all the answers because everybody's experience is different, but it's a guide on adolescence and puberty. Now, the
We're out
second
of
book,
time, so I just
after
want
the
you to go
first
to
book,
the second book. Yes.
now, the second book stemmed from the first book because after the first book, I discovered that it is not just puberty anymore. It's not just adolescence anymore. The world is changing, and we have a community which we are seeing around us physically on social media, and they have come to stay. And no matter how we shun this conversation, I am a Christian, I am this, my religion abhors it, but we have a community that has come to stay. And if we are not careful, this community will
So the
influence
second
our
book, sorry to
children.
jump in there. The second book has stemmed from the first book and is looking at, some of the communities we now have today, and we can't run away from them irrespective of our religion. Very quickly, how can we get this book? The two books, actually. Let us know where we can purchase them, and we'll bring the show to a close.
Okay, so you can get these books on Amazon. You can get them on seller.com. They are available on Amazon and seller.com. Yes, you can pick them up. Yes,
thank you very much, Ijoma Okafor Emiaga, an author, a PhD candidate, and also a nurse. Thank you for your contributions on Rubbin Minds. We'll now be closing the show. My name is Isabella Adediji. Do join us again, same time, same place next week. Goodbye.
Don't just stand there teasing me.